What is up, guys? It's Cole from 906 Detroit. And this is podcast episode 1. I wanted to have my camera on, but it was being really laggy on my laptop, so that kind of sucked, but I guess it's a good thing you had to look at my face, just my voice. So the podcast is originally what I wanted to started with 906 Detroit. It's just been, I've been kind of busy to try to actually figure this stuff out. This is probably going to not be the best podcast you ever heard, but I got a few things for you guys. Before I actually get into that, my cousin Daniel, who's also the other creator of 906 Detroit, is going to be joining me eventually on these podcast episodes. Just he's really busy right now. He's moving. He's got other stuff going on. So I am going to be taking charge for now and going solo. But I just got a few things to go over with you guys today. I want to talk about the Lions draft. I came up with a mock draft, my mock draft 4.0. I've posted my 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. I want to make a video just so I could get into it more with you guys. So I'm not typing so much. Then after that, we'll go into the NFL first round mock draft. I think I've done 2 of those, or maybe 3 of those so far. This might be my 4.0. Got some interesting thing. I think I'm getting it pretty close to how I think the first round is really going to go. I'm going to go Mel Kiper on you guys. And then just a little bit of Tiger talk, and then I'm going to wrap up the show with we're going to look at the Lions' opponents this upcoming season, and I'm going to give my predictions. And then maybe that's something we can do every other week, or as the season gets close to the season, I can make my predictions, and So let's get into the Lions mock draft 4.0. All right, so I have Jalen Carter picking him at 6. Now, will he fall to 6? I'm not sure. And he might actually fall past 6 if we don't take him. I don't know if Seattle's going to take them. I know Seattle just signed a defensive lineman to a decent chunk of change. I forgot his name, so maybe they're not looking at Carter as a necessity. Or they looked into the recent events, him being in that car crash and having not the most impressive pro day. But also, as Dan Campbell said, guys running around in pajamas, I think he said, something like that. That doesn't matter, So the pro day is important to see, what kind of type of athlete they are, but overall it's really not the biggest factor into determining their worth as a draft pick. Personally, I love Jalen Carter as a player. I think drafting him at 6 would be an absolute steal because before all this stuff came out, he was the number 1 player to get drafted. He was the number 1 prospect. Everyone said he's going to Chicago or, whoever goes there. And I still think he is the number 1 prospect. And if he falls to us at 6, I think, that would be great, and I would love to pick him. If Carter's not there, the possibility of drafting a quarterback, which is one thing, but, the way I kind of look at it, and one of my buddies mentioned this, and I kind of agree with him. So say we do decide to pick a quarterback, I'm thinking there's only going to be one available out of the top 4, and that's either Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, and I'm thinking it's starting to look like it's going to be Will Levis. Or none of them could be available, honestly. And then Carter is. But say one of them are available, I don't know if I'm willing to take the last of the 4. I feel like I'm getting the leftovers, something that the other teams didn't really want. I understand the thought of drafting a quarterback because we still have Goff 2 years on his contract. But is it the right guy? Are you going to use that 6th pick on a guy that just, we need a quarterback, so we'll just take the guy that nobody else picked? Obviously, we're not going to get Stroud or Young. Now, if one of them fell to us, that'd be insane. I'd say draft him in a heartbeat, but that's just not going to happen. But I do think it is this possibility that Richardson and Levis do get drafted before 6, which would leave Carter. Now, if not, and say we're sitting there and Will Levis is available, and Carter's gone, he went to Seattle, I don't know what we would take. Maybe a corner, maybe an edge, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. I'm not sure. I personally would like to trade back, but if we can't, I don't know what we'll do. But getting away from the 6th pick, at 18, I have Devon Witherspoon falling to us. And you'll see in my NFL first-round mock, what we're going to go over next, how he fell to us. We'll get into that. I think we need a cornerback. Now, that doesn't have to be in the first round, but I think we do need one because the only corner we have on a longer-ish term deal right now is Cam Sutton. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley we signed, but that is only for a year. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a year. Okuda's on his last year. Not that he's great, but he is on our last year. So we really don't have a corner or a DB that we have long-term. So I wouldn't mind drafting a corner or safety here just to have for the future, and he can develop. In round 2, I picked Felix Anudike-Uzomah, if that's how you say his name. He's actually one of the more top prospects to get drafted. I honestly don't even know if he'll fall to 48. Did I say he's from Northwestern? I'm in Kansas State. I don't know if I said it, but I think I did. But yeah, no, he is one of the more top prospects for an edge rusher in the draft. I could see him going late 30s, mid 30s maybe. But he fell to me in the PFF mock. And I think you can never go wrong drafting you guys to, fill up that D-line. Even though, I mean, we do have Hutchinson and Houston and Pascal, but Houston's, not a 3-down edge rusher, and Pascal had his injuries, and he had a couple sacks last year, I think, against Chicago. But you can never go wrong picking up a guy to add to your arsenal on the D line. And round 2, pick 55, another guy I don't know if he's going to be there. That's linebacker out of Washington State, Dayon Henley. I think linebackers are our weakest spot in our defense. We have a really weak linebacker room. I mean, Anzalone had a great season last year. He brings that veteran presence, which I do love, and I do think we need. And I do love Rodrigo. He's going to develop more, but is he that guy? That guy, I think we can always use more linebackers in that spot, especially this year. If one of our linebackers goes down, Anzalone or Rodrigo, I mean, we're going to need someone, and I think, picking Henley up would be nice. The only thing with Henley is he's actually undersized for a linebacker. I think he's like 220 pounds. So I don't know if the Lions would want to take Henley here because, as you guys know, Malcolm Rodriguez is kind of an undersized linebacker as well. So, I mean, maybe your draft, Lions are thinking, all right, we're going to draft another Rodrigo 2.0. They might go after someone else, a different linebacker, either later in the draft or maybe earlier. I'd love to get Jack Campbell. I really would. But I think he's going crap. He could even go late first round. A linebacker at Iowa, Jack Campbell. But I'm thinking probably mid-30s, low 30s for sure. Yeah, so I picked up Dayon Henley. I do think we could definitely improve our linebacker room for sure. Round 3, pick 81. Now, I've put this in a couple other mocks that I've posted, maybe one or two, and one of them I posted to a Detroit Lions fan page on Facebook and just got destroyed in the comments, and that's wide receiver Jaden Reed out of MSU. Yeah, it's a homer pick, I understand, but being a guy that, I went to a lot of his games in college the last few years, and the dude, he's a dog. He is. He didn't even have the best offense. I mean, that one year we had K9, but the O-line's terrible. Peyton Thorne, I mean, we don't even know if Peyton Thorne's going to be the starter this year. Essentially, last year, I'd say Reed was a one-man show. I mean, I guess you could go Keon Coleman, but I think Reed would be a good fit for us now that We'll have St. Brown, we'll have JMO, and then we have Marvin Jones kind of replacing that Chark position. I think having Reed almost kind of take over that Khalif Raymond spot, that Josh Reynolds spot. I think he could be better than both of them. I think he's got great hands and he runs great routes. He balled out at the Senior Bowl week. I think he might even actually have been awarded top offensive player for something out at the Senior Bowl. But I do think he is going to, have an impact on whatever team he goes to. And it is a homer pick, but I do think the guy is going to be good. And I would rather have him than, probably Khalif. I love Khalif Raymond too, but I think Reed is going to be solid in the NFL. If we don't pick him, not a big deal, but I do think we should pick up a receiver somewhere. I've seen a few people in their Detroit Lions mocks draft Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, but I think he's going late first, early second. I don't think he falls to us unless we trade up, which isn't always a possibility with Brad Holmes. And these mock drafts I post, I don't post trades just because you're never gonna get right what they're gonna trade. So I just pick straight up. That's another thing with linebacker. I think we could trade up from 48 to go and grab a Jack Campbell possibly, or a different prospect linebacker, something along those lines. But for the mock drafts, I just stick to our picks that we have right now. And then round 152, I snagged Chandler Zavala from NC State. I think we could definitely use a young guard, always improve our offensive line. I don't really know much about Zavala. Sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but I've picked him in almost, I think, all my mocks just because I get to round 5 and he's the top guard prospect. Now, the best prospect for guard in this draft is, I think his name's Osiris Torrance out of Florida. He might be going early second, maybe late first even. That's a guy I could see maybe the Lions trading up. Probably not, but maybe. You never know. We did just sign Graham Glasgow, and we got Jonah Jackson, but I wouldn't mind bringing in another guard. Round 6, I picked up Aiden O'Connell, quarterback out of Purdue. I forgot what he's ranked out of the quarterbacks in this draft, but draft him. He's big frame, 6'3". I think we could use a young backup quarterback, and yeah, I'm not 100% with having Nate Sudfeld as our backup, so I think picking up a quarterback anywhere late round is ideal for us. And now some are saying Hendon Hooker for our second round pick, which I wouldn't mind at all. The guy was balling out at Tennessee this year before I think he tore his ACL. But if he fell to us in the second round, I'd take him. But some guy from ESPN, I think, had Seattle taken him at 5. So, who knows if he'll fall to us? He might go first round. But I do think we need to pick a quarterback. I'm also not against Stetson Bennett out of Georgia. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I have picked him in other drafts. But I did go with Aiden O'Connell just because of the bigger frame. And then round 6, I picked up a center from Penn State. I know we lost Evan Brown. I think Evan Brown's actually in Seattle. He was our backup. He's a really good backup center. But I think we, just adding assets to the offensive line. Ragnow was dealing with injuries last year. If, he had to come out or something. We got someone who can snap the ball. So I picked up Juice Scruggs out of Penn State. I just thought it was a cool name also. Yeah. But, leave a comment. I'm probably going to post this on Instagram and Facebook, just this. I'll say, leave a letter grade for me, If you think it's a terrible, let me know. But I was pretty happy with this. If this turned out to be the Lions draft, I would be very happy. Now, I do think Brad Holmes is going to make a trade somewhere. I don't know where. It could be round 1, 2, 3, I don't know. But I do expect a trade. It's so hard to predict. I don't know what, when and where to do it. But, yeah, let's get into the first round NFL mock. Yeah, so there's this big wide space on the right. This is where my camera was. But it was being really laggy. I was going to have my face next to this looking at it. But, actually, can I move it? Oh, I can move it. We'll put it in the middle of the screen here for you guys. So, pick one. I got C.J. Stroud going to Carolina. I've been saying this for probably a month now. Even when he wasn't the favorite to get drafted first, I figured, Carolina moves up to 1. They're probably going to take the more ideal build of a quarterback. Now I know Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young could just be as good as C.J. Stroud, but I think if you move up to 1, you're probably taking the guy with the better build out of the two. But I also could see Young going. But I do think it is going to be Stroud. And then if you're Houston, you got to take, the other one that doesn't get picked. So they're going to take Bryce Young out of Alabama. Then I have Will Levis going to the Colts. Oops, I skipped one, but Will Anderson going to the Cardinals. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think the Cardinals are going to trade back just because, they got a brand new coach. And I think as a brand new coach, you got the 3rd overall pick. You can pick the best defensive player, arguably, in this draft. You're not going to move back from him. He, as a first-year coach, he doesn't want to look like an idiot. So I just feel like they're going to take Will Anderson. But 4th, I got the Colts taking Will Levis. I could also see Anthony Richardson going here. I don't know why. I can just picture Will Levis in a Colts uniform. I don't know about you guys, but I just picture Will Levis in a Colts uniform. And I think him or Richardson are going to go here. At 5, I have Richardson going to Seattle. Now, I know people probably are not going to agree with this, but my reasoning is they only signed Geno for 3 years. Now, I don't know if Seattle actually has the utmost confidence for Geno Smith. I know I wouldn't. I think him getting paid that much was insane because, Seattle, they started out hot, but, they were terrible at the end of the year. They really fell off, and Geno was not playing that great. I think the hype is way overrated for Geno, and I wouldn't be surprised, if Anthony Richardson's there. If I'm Pete Carroll, why would I not take him? I don't think Anthony Richardson is necessarily ready for the NFL. He did struggle in college. Now, you throw him out to the dogs in the NFL, he's going to struggle. So, I have him, I think he's going to go 5 to Seattle, and I think he's going to sit for a year or two and possibly take over, Geno's spot, or at least get a shot to. And then, like I showed, or talked about earlier, I got us taking Jalen Carter. At 7, I got the Raiders taking Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. I think he's probably the best tackle prospect in this draft. The Raiders could definitely upgrade their offensive line. They just signed Jimmy G, taking back Josh Jacobs. I think they could definitely upgrade at their tackle position and take the best prospect. At 8, I got the Falcons taking Tyree Wilson. I think they'll definitely do this. I think actually the Falcons came out and said they're totally off Jalen Carter. Now, I don't know if that means they're looking for defensive players, but Tyree Wilson is the highest or second highest edge rusher prospect. Now, I've heard a lot of things saying he has injury, or he has injury problems, but I do think he probably will go to Atlanta if he's there. At 9, I'm thinking Chicago is going to take Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. Reasoning for this is, they're making all these moves. They got to take a tackle and upgrade the offensive line for Justin Fields. Now, I am not a fan of Justin Fields. I think he's a glorified running back. And I don't understand the hype behind the Bears right now. I think it's overblown. I think they should be predicted to take last in the division still. But you go out, you get a tackle at pick 9. You brought in DJ Moore. brought in a better defense. This is it. This is, prove it kind of year for Justin Fields, building weapons around him like this. At 10, I got the Eagles taking Bijan Robinson. Another kind of gut feeling. They lost Miles Sanders, but I think taking Bijan here, kind of a ballsy pick, but I think it works out for them. I mean, Bijan's the top prospect in this draft, and Eagles need a running back right now. And I think he would fit well in Philly, and I think Philly, pulls the trigger and takes him here. At 11, I think Tennessee needs a receiver. I know they got Treylon Burks, but best top prospect in this draft, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I believe he ran a 4.4. His routes were real crisp. I think he jumped over Quentin Johnston out of TCU. He was the original top prospect, but I think I would go Smith-Njigba. And then at 12, I got the Texans taking Lucas Van Ness. Reason for this is a new coach, DeMeco Ryan, got his quarterback at 2. Now let's go get a top edge prospect. He's a defensive-minded coach, DeMeco Ryan. I think he wants one of those picks to be a top defensive prospect. And Lucas Van Ness was crazy at the combine, and I think he's going to snag him here. 13, I don't even know if the Jets are going to be picking here. They might not even be. If Rodgers' trade goes through, the Packers might be picking here, and I could see the Packers taking a tight end as well. So that could be the Packers right there, but I took Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. He's a top tight end prospect. I think the Jets could use a tight end, and I also think the Packers could use a tight end. So I had him going there. Might not happen, but I think if the Packers are picking there, they'll take him. At 14, I got the Patriots. Shout out to my buddy Spo. He wants a receiver, so I'm gifting you a receiver. Quentin Johnston out of TCU. Now, will Bill Belichick do that? Who knows? He'll probably draft another guard that's a projected third rounder. I'm helping out my buddy here. I'm giving him Quentin Johnston, which I could see them doing. They do need more weapons on offense. I know they just got Juju. I think ideally the best one for them would be Smith-Njigba, but I don't think he falls to them. So they get the next best thing. They get Quentin Johnston. At 15, I got the Packers taking Kalijah Kancey from Pitt, defensive tackle. Now, I've seen a lot of picks or a lot of mocks and a lot of people saying they want the Lions to take him at 6. And at first, I was like, that's not a bad idea. Let's go get the second best defensive tackle in this draft. But I mean, a lot of drafts, I see him falling late first round. So is he that top prospect? And he's kind of undersized for a defensive tackle. I don't know his exact height and weight, but I do know he is undersized. And I don't think that's really the type of guy we want. I think Aleem McNeil is kind of undersized, so I don't want to take on another one. Kancey had a great senior season, though, or junior season, whatever. His last season at Pitt was I think he had 16 sacks or something like that. But I don't think he's the best run stopper from what I've read. At 16, I honestly really didn't know what to do with this Washington pick. So I snagged, I think, best player available. BPA, I had him taking Christian Gonzalez. Could maybe be Witherspoon, but I had him take Gonzalez. 17, I had the Steelers taking a tackle. I think Antoine Harrison out of Oklahoma. I mean, the Pittsburgh's offense is terrible. Their offensive line is terrible. And Eddie, my buddy, that's a Steelers fan, if you're watching this, your offense is terrible. You need to try and protect Kenny Pickett. Actually, I know another Steelers fan, Sean Vogan. He's in my teaching class here at Michigan State. I think you guys are going to take a tackle. I think you need to try and help the Pittsburgh Steelers. Help the Pittsburgh Steelers. Help Kenny Pickett pass the ball. But I could see them going DB2. That's what it says they need on PFF. We just snagged Cam Sutton from them. Shout out the Steelers for helping us out. So they could go corner here too, but I do think they're going to go offensive tackle. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the Lions mock, Devon Witherspoon falling to us at 18. there's a lot of hype behind these corners in this draft, but I think they're going to fall farther than people think, and I think Witherspoon falls right into our hands, and I think he'd be a great fit. He played with Kirby Joseph in college at Illinois, and I think it'd be a great fit for us. And we need a corner or a DB for a longer-ish term deal. 19 at the Bucs taking Brian Bresee out of Clemson, defensive tackle. I could see the Packers taking him at 15 over Kancey, but I don't know. I think the Bucs are kind of in a complete rebuild. Go and grab a stout guy for your D-line, Brian Bresee. And I didn't realize this till I looked up Brian Bresee on Instagram, but when I was a kid in high school or middle school, there was a video of him being like an absolute menace on the football field in high school. Like, I'm talking like grabbing kids by their necks and slamming them. Like a height video. I'm sure you go out on TikTok, YouTube, look up Brian Bresee, high school. I mean, the dude was a menace on the field. I'm sure he got tons of unsportsmanlikes, but I think it'd be a good fit in Tampa Bay. Further kind of rebuild-ish start. At 20, I got Seattle taking an edge. So they took Richardson at 5. Could have had Carter. I think they kind of need an edge. I don't even know if I know any edge rusher on Seattle right now, but they're going to take a shot at Myles Murphy. I think prior, I'm talking like January, February, I heard a lot about Myles Murphy being like the top edge prospect behind Will Anderson. I mean, I heard some people saying the Lions taking Myles Murphy at 6. I'm not exactly why he's kind of fallen down people's mocks, but I think he'd be a good fit for Seattle, and I could see Seattle taking an edge rusher here. 21, I got San Diego, LA Chargers taking Joey Porter Jr., DB, cornerback out of Penn State. I think he was the best player available, and I don't know where actually the Chargers defense ranked last year. I don't think it was great, but I think Porter is going to be a stud in college. The only thing is I heard he kind of did deal with a lot of penalties last year. But out of Gonzalez, Witherspoon, him at corners in this draft, I think he's the third best out of the 3. But and I think the Chargers said on PFF they need a corner, so I grabbed Porter for them. At 22, I do think Lamar is going to end up staying in Baltimore just because I don't see any team probably wanting to take him on for a contract. That's a whole nother discussion. I should have added that as a topic to talk about. Maybe next time I'll talk about Lamar and where I think he's going, unless someone trades for him by then. But I didn't really understand how the franchise tag works until recently. So I think he'd fit great in Washington, but say Washington traded for him or Indianapolis or whoever. So basically, they would have to make him an offer. So say they offered him 5 years and $250 million, $200 million guaranteed. So they offer him that. Well, then Baltimore can match that offer and they get the rights to him, I believe. Now, if they don't want to match the offer, that's fine. Washington can trade for him, but also Washington has to give up 2 first-round picks. So not only are you getting Lamar and you have to pay him, but now you got to give up 2 first-round picks. And I don't think any team is willing to do that. So I think he's going to stay in Baltimore, and I got Baltimore taking Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC, to help him out, make him a little more happy. So they really haven't helped him out that much. He needs a receiver. I think they drafted Duvernay, or is that his name from Baltimore? Or Rashad Bateman. Maybe they drafted in the first round a year or 2 ago. But I think Jordan Addison's a good prospect, and I think they take him. 23, the Minnesota Vikings. Shout out to my boy, Colton Blaha. I think the last 3 mocks have been really boring, and I had them take a cornerback, which I do think they need. But I switched it up this time. They lost Adam Thielen. And I have them taking wide receiver Zay Flowers out of Boston College. I think they need another receiver. You can't be having KJ Osborne as your number 2. Actually, but I think KJ's not bad. I think he had a touchdown against the Lions, the game me and my buddy Colton Blaha went to. He's a Vikings fan. Don't know why. He's from Michigan. Same as my other friends that I've mentioned in this video. They're all from Michigan, but they're not Lions fans. Doesn't make sense. But yeah, I got him taking a wide receiver, spice it up a little bit, change it up for my friend, and I could see him doing it. At 24, I got Jacksonville taking Brian Branch, safety. I believe on the PFF it said Jacksonville was in need of a defensive back. And Brian Branch is really versatile. You know, he can play in the nickel, he can play safety. He's probably the most versatile. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But I think out of all the DBs, he's probably the most versatile out of all of them. Now he's primarily a safety. And I think Jacksonville could use him. And, you know, I could also see Jacksonville maybe going receiver. You know, they don't have Marvin Jones now, so they are getting Calvin Ridley back. And they are getting, who do they got? Zay Jones. So I think they probably will go defense. At 25, I got New York taking Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. Now, I would have had him taking Zay Flowers if he fell to him. Man, do they need receivers. I mean, they need receivers bad. You know, who knows? You could even see the Giants trading up to get someone, like a Johnston or Addison or maybe Najigba, who knows. But if no one's there, I got him taking Broderick Jones, a tackle. You know, help out with the run game with Saquon. I mean, run game with Daniel Jones. We've seen what he can do on his feet. But I got them taking Broderick Jones to help out with that offensive line. At 26, I got Dallas taking Michael Mayer. They just lost Dalton Schultz, or is it Dalton Schultz or Dallas Schultz? I think it's Dalton Schultz. But I got him taking Michael Mayer. One of the top tight end prospects out of this draft. I actually think him or Kincaid. I don't know which one I take. I think Kincaid's higher ranked on PFF, but I could see Mayer going before him. But I've seen a couple highlights of Mayer. He looks like he's pretty quick, actually. I'm personally not the biggest fans of taking tight ends in the first round, based on the Lions' history. Frickin' Eric Ebron and TJ Hawkinson, which TJ's good, but I'm just not a big fan of taking tight ends. And I hate Eric Ebron. I actually got a funny story about Eric Ebron. I was telling my buddies, but me and Daniel, actually, my cousin, the other guy that, you know, runs 906 Detroit, when he was on the Lions, terrible hands. Terrible hands. I mean, he has the worst hands in Lions history. Awful. Anyways, I think my cousin, Daniel, looked at, like, Ebron's Instagram, looked at his tagged photos, and there was, like, a tagged photo from, like, maybe even a year before, like, it would, like, from whenever time it was. It was, like, a year it's been on Instagram. It was, like, some GMC. It was, like, some dealership. Some GMC dealership. And Daniel added him, like, you need to be focused on your game instead of buying trucks, like Butterfingers, yada, yada, yada. And then Ebron responded to a comment on a post that was a year old and started going at me and my cousin, like saying, because I started saying stuff, you know, like he sucked and not the nicest things, but I think he just, like, basically lost a game for us the week before. And he starts commenting at us like, poor people want to say this, and they love to talk, and, like, just, like, coming at us saying we're broke, like, yada, yada, yada. I don't remember. He ended up blocking us on Instagram, so I can't even find it. Yeah, kind of went off topic there, but that's just a funny story. I am blocked by Eric Ebron, and Daniel is also blocked by Eric Ebron on Instagram, so if anyone can find that post and find the comments and send it to me, that'd be hilarious. I'd love to look at it again. Yeah, but getting back to it, pick 27, I got the Buffalo Bills taking cornerback Deonte Banks out of Maryland. At first, I wasn't really sure how good this guy was, but I've actually heard a lot. I wouldn't say a lot of good things, but I don't know what I was watching, but they said Deonte Banks is actually a pretty good cornerback prospect to be a solid pick for even, like, lower 20s. I think Buffalo, it said they needed a DB on PFF, so I had them, you know, take best player available, I guess, Deonte Banks. And then at pick 28, I got Cincy taking Emmanuel Forbes. I know this is Jeff Iafredi's boy. He's on the Morning Woodward show. He wants the Lions to snag Emmanuel Forbes, maybe possibly trading up for him in the second round. And I've also, outside of Woodward, I've seen some other mocks or other, articles about the top corner prospects, and Forbes is up there. He is a little undersized, which is a little concerning. I think he weighed in at his pro day or at the combine at 170. I'm 160 pounds, and if I had to tackle Derrick Henry, or, an NFL running back, I would absolutely get destroyed. But he's got the talent. He's going to be in the NFL. I'm sure he knows how to tackle, but I think he's pretty good in coverage. But mainly the reason I only know his name is because I know Jeff from the Morning Woodward show really likes him. Shout out the Morning Woodward show. I watch them every day. They're great. If you haven't checked them out yet, definitely do that. At 29, I got the Saints taking Nolan Smith, edge out of Georgia. Now, this is more actually one of the top edge prospects in the draft. He could go as, I could see him going to Seattle at 20 instead of Myles Murphy. And whose mock I recently saw? I don't know who it was, but I had the Lions taking Nolan Smith at 18. So I had him falling to 29. I definitely could see him going higher. Maybe to one of these teams like the Giants, Cowboys, Bills, I don't know. But I got him falling to 29. At 30, I got Osiris Torrance actually getting picked by the Eagles. I'm not sure who their guards are, but I don't think they're phenomenal. I could see them taking the best. He is the best guard prospect in this draft. I'd actually like if Detroit could get him. But I got the Eagles improving their O-line here at 30. You can never go wrong with it, like I said earlier. And he's the best guard prospect. And then at 31, I got Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee going to Kansas City. I do think they need another receiver. And they did just lose Juju. I know Kelsey's technically their number one guy, but I think Jalen Hyatt could go as high as 31. I've seen a lot of Lions mocks where he falls to us at 48. But I could very well see him going to 31. I'm predicting he's going to go higher. It might not be at 31, but it could be, mid-30s. But I think, Kansas City needs a guy, and Hyatt balled out at Tennessee. Playing in the SEC, he was a phenomenal receiver. I think he would have 3 or 4 touchdowns against Alabama. I think definitely he could fall this or not fall, he could get drafted this high in the draft. But yeah, guys, that's my mock draft 4.0. Let me know what you guys think, what you think about the team. Your team, what I gave them. I think most of you guys are Lions fans, but I actually got a couple buddies that, fans of the Patriots, Steelers, and Vikings. But let me know what you guys think. And yeah. All right, we're going to get into a little Tigers talk. Man, I don't think I've ever talked for this long. Wow, not going to talk about this much. Tigers 0-3. That game today was terrible. One hit until the 9th inning, and the only hit was an infield single. It just, I haven't really covered the Tigers a lot, but I just figured I would because their season just started. But wow, the games I've watched are awful. I haven't really covered or even really paid attention to the Tigers since I was a kid. Since, they were in the World Series, probably when I was in elementary, middle schoolish. But I figured, I'll get back into it. I'm done with college now, done with wrestling. I'll have more time. So my dad got Bally Sports, and wow, that was a struggle to watch through. I watched the last 3 games, and that was bad. I forgot who got the home run today. I posted it. Shout out to him. Jake Rogers with the first home run. But they do play tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Houston. So, that should be fun. The returning champs. So, probably going to lose this series. Probably going to be 0-6 going into the home opener next week against the Boston Red Sox. Man, I'd love to go to that, but Not going to be able to, but hopefully we can pick up a game or two in Houston. Just one. I don't even know if we will. I'm mainly tuning in because it's Miggy's last year. He's my favorite Tiger ever. That's who I watched growing up as a kid when I was playing baseball. So I'm going to cover him this year. Might not get too much into it, but at least post the scores. They start winning, maybe we'll start talking a little bit more, but figured I'll just update their record when I talk about the podcast a little bit. But yeah, not much to talk about. The season just started, and they looked absolutely terrible. All right, let's go into the last thing. I cannot believe I'm at 40 minutes already. Talking about the Lions' schedule. I was just talking about this the other day with a couple of my buddies. And initial thoughts looking at this. Our home schedule is pretty nice, to be honest. And I don't know how many games we'll lose at home. I don't. Well, I do. I already set it up, but we're going to talk about it. But let's get into this. We'll start with the home games. Chicago. We'll start with the divisional game. Chicago. That's a dub. We're beating Chicago. Green Bay. Another dub. I do think Rodgers leaves. I think Love is not him. I think they're going to kind of suck. Minnesota. We ain't losing to Minnesota at home. Now, they might get one on the road. But we ain't losing them at home. Seattle, we are getting our freaking revenge from last year. If we would have made Seattle punt the ball one time, we win that game and we are in the playoffs. We need to get our revenge, and they knocked us out of the playoffs the last game of the year by beating the Rams in overtime. So we're going to get our revenge here. I really don't think Seattle's that good. They fell off so hard at the end of the year. I do think we will beat them. K9 does scare me a little bit, though. I'm not going to lie. K9 does scare me. But I do think we beat them at home for sure. Revenge game. That's a dub. Oakland Raiders at home. I kind of feel like that could be I know the Raiders sucked, but they got Devontae Adams. They got Josh Jacobs. I think their defense isn't that good, though. I think that's the thing that kind of makes the Raiders stink. They did just get Jimmy G, who I guess has been solid in San Fran when he plays. He is a winning quarterback. I believe his record is a winning percentage. But I do think we beat the Raiders at home. I don't think their defense will be able to match with our offense. Carolina, another revenge game. They essentially knocked us out of the playoffs last year. That was one of the most awful games I could watch. Christmas Eve at my grandma's house. Me and my dad are just trying to enjoy a Lions victory, go into Christmas Sunday, and it would have been great. But no. The Lions gave up, I think, 200-some yards in rushing in the first half. There was nothing to root for that game. That's one of the most ugly games I've seen from a rushing or run defense in my life. I think they broke some record that game, Carolina. I don't know what happened that game. A lot of it, people said the turf was cold or hard as a rock, but that was terrible. And they're coming in, who knows? CJ Stroud could light some stuff up. They got Chark and Adam Thielen. I do think we beat them, though, at home. We are a good home team. So, excuse me. I got a 6-0 at home right now. Moving on, Falcons. Falcons are trash. I mean, even get into that. I guess they could trade from Lamar, but we're winning that all day. Now, Denver. I can't have us winning every game at home. I think it's very possible, but I'm going to say we lose to Denver. Now, that could be we lose to Seattle, or we lose to Oakland, or maybe the Panthers, and we beat them. But I think we probably lose one, maybe two at home. But I'm going to say we lose one at home. We're a great home team. So let's get into the away schedule. I think we sweep the Bears again. I had a bet with a couple Chicago fans on my wrestling team last year that we'd sweep them way before the season started. I made it on draft night. And when we came back in Chicago, was that gave me a heart attack. And that was huge. I think I won like $56 total out of those guys. But hey, if you guys are listening, I will make that bet again with you that we will sweep you guys again. I don't care what your off season looks like. We will sweep you again. Green Bay, terrible. We're sweeping them. Now, as much as I hate to say this, I'm going to have the Vikings beating us. I think that's a winnable game, but I think the Vikings I think they were frauds last year, but I do still think they're a solid team, and I'll give them one. We'll give them one. We're 5-1 in the division. That's what we were last year. I say we stay the same. Maybe we drop to the Bears or Packers on the road, but I really don't think so. I think we do go 5-1 in our division this year, possibly 6-0. Kansas City, I have us losing that game. I can't sit up here and say we're going to win that game. Now, I have heard rumors that that game could be played in London, which would be great for us. That would be phenomenal for us if that game was in London, so we do not have to go to Arrowhead. But I do still think we probably lose that game. Hard to beat Patrick Mahomes. At Dallas, the thing with Dallas, I feel like we play in Dallas every year. I feel like we never play Dallas at home, and we always lose in Dallas. I mean, we were in that game last year, and then Jamal fumbled on the 1-yard line, and it kind of went haywire after that. I think Amon-Ra got hurt earlier in the game. I think this is a very winnable game for us. I don't think Dallas is great. I think they got a really good defense, though. And you can see what they do sometimes. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that game against the Vikings last year. I mean, they beat them. It might have been like 42-3 or something. So, I mean, they can put up numbers. And I think they got Brandon Cooks. So, I do think they'll be solid. So, I'm going to give Dallas a win here. The Saints in New Orleans. I know they got Derek Carr. The Saints actually could be raw this year if Derek Carr pops off. But I do think we probably win this game. Jamal Williams going there and then saying like he felt we disrespected him with our offer to re-sign him. Well, it turns out we offered him $5.5 million a year. And then he ended up taking $4 million a year in New Orleans. So how can you say we disrespected you and then you take less money? So, I mean, I like Jamal's personality, but when I heard that interview, kind of turned me off him. So, I'm going to have us beating them. We're going to go show Jamal what's up and that he should have took the offer we gave him. In Baltimore, I think Lamar stays. Baltimore, has got a great defense, and if Lamar stays healthy, I think they probably beat us. Maybe. I don't, it's hard to say because Tyler Huntley was playing for the Ravens last year to really get a grasp on how good they'll be with Lamar if he stays healthy. And if they bring in any weapons, I do think they got a really solid defense, though, and it will be a tough game to win at Baltimore. So I'm going to give Baltimore a win. I'm going to be fair, just also because I got us winning a lot of home games. In L.A. at the Chargers, I got us. I'm not going to say yet, but, I mean, that's a tough game. Chargers made the playoffs last year, blew that playoff game. That was bad. And Brandon Staley, Chargers head coach, he's got to have a statement year or else he's going to get fired. If the Chargers don't go and win a playoff game this year, you got to fire that guy. I mean, you got Justin Herbert. You got a young prospect like that, great young quarterback. And I just think the coaching in L.A. is not that great. I mean, how do you lose a 28-0 lead, I think it was, in the playoffs? But I think they got to win a playoff game this year. I think it's going to be all in, kitchen sink. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, especially in L.A. So I got L.A. winning that game. And then Tampa Bay's in a complete rebuild. We win, and that leaves our total record at 11-5. That is my prediction for now. 11-5. I'm pretty confident in that prediction. I really am. I think we could easily get this number. We could even get more. I mean, we could beat Dallas. We could beat Denver. But also we could lose those games too. We could end up, I don't want to jinx it, but I do think we can go 11-5 and win the NFC North this year for sure. And yeah. But thanks for watching, guys. I had really fun with this. I did not think I was going to go up to 50 minutes. If you guys are still listening, apparently I had your attention somewhat. leave a like. Let me know what you think. I'm going to post this video on YouTube, and then I think I'm going to post the audio on Spotify. I'll make it clear. I'm going to make an Instagram post letting you guys know where it's available. But I guess if you just watch this video, you're probably not going to listen to Spotify. So that's probably a dumb saying. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'm planning on maybe making another video next week. I want to make probably, how many weeks do we got until the draft? I think we got, it's Sunday. How many more Sundays do we got? We got 3 more Sundays. Maybe I can make 3 more videos, 3 more mocks, and I'll come out with a final mock. I'm going full Mel Kiper mode for the draft. But yeah, I had really fun with this, and yeah, hope to make another video for you guys soon, and hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.